Well, a very good evening to you, race fans, and welcome on back to the MC Motorsport GT3 Championship. This is Season 4, proudly presented by Brisbane's very own French Car Care, and we find ourselves tonight in the heart of British motorsport. This is, of course, Silverstone circuit. It is a typically British circuit, but with a very much more modern feel than so many of the airfields we often visit. It's an iconic one as well. There's fast-flowing corners and some very long straights that promise plenty of slipstream battles here tonight. And of course, it is endurance night for the second time this season, which means 90 minutes of high-intensity GT3 racing action. Our drivers are going to need to manage tyres, fuel, and of course, their own focus across the full distance if they want to come out on top. Welcome back to Simple Racing Broadcasts, or indeed, if you're here for the first time tonight, welcome on in. It's great to have you with us. My name is Jared Cole, and I'm joined tonight, as always, by one of my amazing co-commentators, Dean Biggles-Hopton. Biggles, welcome back to another week of GT3 racing here with MC Motorsport, and an Enduro always brings out a bit of fun, doesn't it?
It does, especially when we're going to be invading the Isle of the United Kingdom with a whole bunch of Australians here this evening, my friend, and a whole bunch of GT3, so it's going to be interesting. Of course, one of the birthplaces of motor racing here, where they used to have mutton motor race, GP or whatever it used to cause. But then again, now we're modern day. Now we've got some fast machines going around this, and of course an endurance race. And I'll tell you what, what comes usually with British motor racing? British weather.
Yeah, and look, don't let the B-roll footage that we grabbed over the weekend fool you. The clouds are absolutely here tonight. It is overcast, it is very high humidity, and I'm going to be utterly stunned if we get away without any rain here tonight across the 90 minutes of race time that we do have. Drivers out on track right now going through qualifying. The track temp 25 degrees, it's beautiful conditions. Honestly, if it wasn't for the clouds and the threat of rain, you'd be so stoked to be racing here tonight at Silverstone. Let's take a look at the championship standings as we come into this round, and we're getting closer and closer to the end of this season, and really the standings are a lot closer than we are used to seeing in any given point at this stage of the championship. It's not a huge amount in it, but there is still a fair lead there for Reece Wakefield. 1,749 points so far to Thomas Hin's 1,624. Danny P in third on 1,575 is just ahead of Hayden Veld on 1,492. The top four still fairly well out there on their own. James Salhani leading the rest of the pack on 1,397, and with a bit of a gap to Kyle Ridley. And then really where the action is all for P7. Ryan Palmer and Josh Harris will be going at it for ADHD, and we've seen what happens when those two are racing each other. This could end in tragedy, of course. Brad Coates sitting there in 9th at the moment, and 10th for Liam Tipping, Liam Jensen just ahead of Liam Tipping. Not at all confusing there, gents. Thank you so much for that. It's getting to the pointy end here, Biggles, and I reckon Reece has almost got one hand on that trophy, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, with the four wins there and 16 top fives there for Reece Wakefield, but that's because he's been at the 16 starts of this race as well as Thomas Hin's. Danny P's done 13 starts and still third in the championship, not bad, but Hayden Veld is back as well. 14 starts, 3 race wins. Could this be the fourth there from Hayden Veld? This is where you need to step up, actually. Of course, if you are here tonight, and he certainly is, it's got to be the time to steal a chunk of points a race from Reece Wakefield. Otherwise, the other drivers will be looking at basically just chasing rather than, well, mate, they might feel like a bit of Oscar at the moment, isn't it? I didn't want to bring up the Oscar situation, but yeah, you know, it could. Reece Wakefield certainly would. He doesn't want to feel like Oscar right now, and then any of these other drivers feel like Lando soon. Anyway, that's the situation, isn't it?
Not wrong. And look, plenty of points still on offer for this evening. Being an Enduro, all of the points get sort of chucked into the one pot for tonight. We're not having it split across multiple races, so it does mean that tonight we'll have 300 points on offer for the winner, which, look, depending on where everyone finishes, could make a massive difference in this championship fight. Let's go down and check out a little bit of the last few minutes here of qualifying action as we head to the track and find ourselves looking at none other than Mr. Wakefield, who's just crossed the line and set the fastest time, jumping to the top of the pops there with a 1:58.732. You can see very little separation, less than a second, in fact, through the top 9, and not a whole lot more further back through the field either. It's going to be a very, very fast race. I was saying to you earlier, because I've had an eye on a bit of an eye on this track tonight, because we have had a bit of racing here just last week. In fact, with Tasman Racing League chucking some GT3s around Silverstone, and it's very interesting to compare the times here. Obviously, different track conditions can make all the difference, and what we saw for Tasman with probably a bit less favourable track conditions was only one driver managing to actually get under the 2-minute mark in qualifying. Tonight, we've got 13 drivers.
Wow.
And Liam Jensen, look, an honorary sub 2 minute, really, a 2 minutes .03. How can you hold that away from him? It's a very, very quick track out there tonight. For now, the rain is going to be very interesting, because we did see, being England, of course, we did see pretty similar conditions occur last week, where mid-race a bit of rain around, and there was some real strategy calls having to be made from the drivers as to how long to stay out, when to come in, and try and swap over those wets. And honestly, it was a brilliant bit of strategy that saw the eventual winner take it, just purely from holding on an extra couple of laps and being brave on the slick tyres before switching over to the wets. I would love to see something like that play out again here tonight, as we see Keith Logan come to the line and look to improve his time. He'll stay in at 26th by the look of it, not quite enough to jump any further up through the table at this late stage of qualifying. Ryan Palmer well ahead at the moment of Josh Harris, who is back in 25th. So the teammates, although fairly closely matched on the championship ladder, a lot of difference in their times here tonight as we get very, very quickly towards the end of this qualifying session. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we should have these drivers able to finish their lap. Let's see if I've got this right this time, though, Biggles.
Yeah, so many races later, we're both of us, my friend. But if Reece Wakefield at the moment can secure that pole, that's going to be a nice one, especially because we don't have the two races. You don't have to worry too much about having the reverse grid to slice your way back in Heat 2. Qualifying is over there. You do get to finish their lap times. Reece Wakefield's going to be comfortable here in the lead there. Thomas can try to do an overtake early in this one. That's pending the situation, of course, while drivers are still on the hot laps. Interesting situation. And also, have any of the drivers tweaked any of their cars basically within the limitations that they have to say, okay, there will be wet weather conditions, perhaps there will be wet weather conditions later on. Do I balance my car for dry and wet conditions to deal with those British weather circumstances perhaps limiting in the distance?
You'd have to think that the drivers would just be turning the traction control up more than anything else. I can't see there being a lot else that you'd do massively differently in wet conditions, particularly when you're sort of planning on a good portion of this race being still fairly dry conditions. Drivers aren't going to want to sacrifice that speed. Chris Lashbrook out of nowhere, tucked in behind Hayden Veld, has just set a purple sector at the death here. It'll be interesting to see how much further up through the field he can take his Mustang on what will be his final lap of qualifying. He's just going to come around to the end of the final sector now, a bit up and over the curb there, which is not going to help his time. Gets across the control line, and a slight improvement perhaps. Will it be enough to jump? No, didn't end up actually improving the time overall, which is a shame. James Sahani on his way around to finish his final lap as well. And that outer sausage curb just beckoning for these drivers, isn't it?
Yeah, pushing it like absolutely crazy out of club and bail the last couple of corners there just to try to get any tiny little bit that counts. But there'll be off-track excursions, which will be in the back of the mind of the drivers too during the race, because you don't want to get too many of them. I think the limit will be about 20 and then every 10 as well too. So don't want to get yourself a little black flag condition. You have to do a drive-through if you serve too much of that. We just don't know how it's going to pan out. It's an hour and a half at the birthplace of British Motorsports. Will be interesting tonight.
Yeah, it's certainly a longer race than what we saw earlier in the week as well. And I think, one of the advantages of the shorter format that we did see late last week with TRL is that, it was possible to really just work that rain in for a decent sort of pit strategy. I really don't know what to expect here tonight with the weather that we've got in store. It's hard to tell how much rain we're going to get, or indeed if we're going to get any at all. The clouds and the weather forecast definitely look threatening. but that doesn't always translate, as we know, to anything of any substance when you actually get out there and race it. So
it needs to rain a little harder, doesn't it? It needs to rain for a good chunk of about, depends how hard it comes down. If it's light rain for 5 minutes, it might just be enough to stay out and dry us. But if it starts getting a little bit heavier, and you're talking about 2, 3, 4% conditions for the rain on the track, then perhaps they'll change it around. But I think the warm-up's done and dusted. Of course, the qualifying is done and dusted. The warm-up sessions now at the moment. Drivers, you're also in the condition at the moment where there's no rains. So you can't go out and try on wet weather tyres because there's no water. So you've got none of that changeable conditions to practice on. It's going to be very, very interesting as to what you're going to be calculating your strategy. They'll be heavily looking, no doubt, at the weather gods there in iRacing and trying to plan their strategy according to that.
Yeah, they absolutely will. We'll bring the grid proper up in a moment. The guys do have just a little bit of a warm-up period here just to get their final adjustments in and give them a bit of a crack around here. But the qualifying results are in. Wakefield sets the fastest time of 58.73, then Thomas Hinz not too far behind. Have a look at it, though. The top 10 all within a second. It's not surprising, but it is always good to see the top 20 all within a second and a half, effectively. It's going to be such a tight race, and that's a very, very small margin across an almost 2-minute lap. I'm expecting to see some pretty close racing, which is not ordinarily what you expect from an enduro. It tends to be survival of the fittest over that period. I think any of these drivers could take it. They're just going to have to watch the tyres early on, make sure they don't do anything silly while they're still cold, and then go make the most of it once they do actually get out on track proper.
That's exactly right. But being an endurance race, you can't be thinking about trying to get 5 positions, in the first lap. You've just got to try to slice 1 or 2. If an opportunity, if the door opens, you certainly go for the move there. But you don't send one up the inside. Well, it's too soon, isn't it, to talk about Oscar's situation. But he didn't have, he did actually a bit of a time on his side. But at the same time, well, we know how hard it is to overtake in Formula One. It's not that hard to overtake in Silverstone. So these drivers don't need to be doing anything too crazy too early. Once again, it's an endurance race. Think about your strategy. Take care of your tyres. Always in any endurance races, I always say that, Jared, it's a battle with the track first and track conditions, and then the second battle is with the other drivers that are around you.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, as always, Biggles. It's one of those tracks that looks like there should be plenty of room, and indeed there will be in parts. We saw a fair bit of passing done, particularly into some of the late corners, just able to throw the brakes in there and try for something when we did come here last week. But I don't know what to expect tonight, honestly. These guys will be racing on a very, very tight line around here. Although it is a fairly wide track, realistically in an enduro, it's not going to take a great deal of time before you start to see the marbles and the debris build up outside of that line. What will make it really interesting is if we do get that rain, of course, everything changes. You can't afford to stay on that well-rubbered race line anymore because you just won't have the traction. And that really opens up some opportunities for people to get a little bit creative with their line through the corners, and then also start to make a few passes where people might not be expecting it, just finding a bit of extra grip off the main line compared to the very, very slippery rubber that is laid down. But
that's where it's
it's a guessing game, Biggles. Like we don't know for sure just how much water we're going to get. Is it even going to be enough to validate the use of wets, right?
You never know. iRacing can actually spray a little bit down one part of the track and not on the other as well too. So they did the racing really well, considering it's actually starting to rain here in Brisbane as well too. I'm not sure in your neck of the woods, but it's also almost like it's realism appropriate. But another situation, this is also where your teammates come in play, because you can then say to your teammate, okay, I'm going to go down pit road earlier when there's changeable conditions come in. I'm going to get out there and I'm going to give you feedback as to, is it time for you? Do I recommend you to come in and change over to these tyres because it's manageable? That's where it helps to have your teammates, because they essentially at some point could be a guinea pig, especially for some of these drivers that are high up in the standings and can't afford to lose points, whereas your teammates can essentially sacrifice perhaps pitting a little bit earlier and stuff like that, and gambling on the different tyre compound and giving you that more important and crucial feedback. Come on, it's like an engineer, like you have 20 people on on the pit wall, giving you all that telemetry information. Fortunately, we don't have that in the iRacing world, but we'll have their allies out there, and they will have their mates, and some people have their spotters too.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's going to play into it in a big way. You can see already there's no sign of rain at our long range radar, showing absolutely nothing to worry about at the moment. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we're not going to see anything across the course of 90 minutes. As we get word the warm-up is finishing, and so we will be getting ready to grid up any moment now as the drivers make their way back into the pits and get their final race orders in with their teams. A bit of conversation, I'm sure, amongst the various teams as to how they're going to approach this one. A reminder of the order tonight. Reece Wakefield will lead us away with Thomas Inns alongside, then Danny P and James Salhani behind them on row 2. Ryan Palmer and Hayden Veld line up ahead of Jackson Starrett and Cruz McPhee, then Mick Poley and Chris Lashbrook rounding out your top 10. A very, very quick top 10 indeed, with, if my memory is correct, every single one of these top 10 drivers setting a faster qualifying time than we saw here last week. It's amazing what a bit of track condition can do. Jared Burns and Ian Ward ahead of Kyle Ridley and Liam Jensen. Then Thomas Kuhl and Chris Miller line up ahead of Nathan Bowman and Michael Whiting. Chris Croton and Luke Newing sneak into the top 20 also, ahead of Dean Powell and Brendan Purcell. Then Lucas Baker and Charlie Milliken line up on row 12 with Josh Harris and Keith Logan behind them. Vince Salvatore and Liam Tipping down the back of the field with Brian East and Mitch Curry also not setting time. Scott Bartai and Nathan Allen both ready to go with the safety car if required. Hard to say. Don't know what I'm expecting tonight, honestly. Whether or not we're going to see the safety car make its way out there, but there's a good chance. I mean, a bit of rain is certainly going to influence that.
Well, maybe even before the rain, we might have a few, usually incidents will always occur on the first lap with a whole bunch of cars and 30 to be exact, all ready and eager to make up a ton of positions here at Silverstone. That'll be interesting. But once again, hopefully reminded in the drivers, it is an endurance race. There's no need to basically, put yourself on a damage clock so early in a race.
No, absolutely right. And hopefully they all brought their smart racer pants tonight and put them on, because otherwise we're going to see absolute carnage, I'm sure, in the opening couple of laps. One of the real challenges of a flowing rhythm circuit like Silverstone is that you just don't get as much heat into the tyres as quickly as you might have expected. And so as we go down to the starting line, it'll be a question of how many of these drivers do find a bit of pace on the cold tyres, how many of them push too hard and too soon. But as always, it is a big lineup. The interesting one, Reece Wakefield not actually making it to the grid, so we'll be starting from the pits by the look of things as we get underway for this 90-minute endurance. In fact, Reece Wakefield actually out at the moment, so he may be joining a bit later even as we get underway on this 90-minute, hour-and-a-half race around Silverstone. And the pack already a little bit of contact there, and it looks like a bit of a nudge there for Ryan Palmer as he falls down through the pack. We make our way through. And there's big contact. Ryan Palmer's gone around backwards and has hit it's Brendan Purcell getting hit there. I'm not quite sure how that's happened for Palmer, but it certainly had an immediate impact on Purcell's race. Not even through the first couple of corners, and we are straight away into it with Purcell and Palmer both copping meatball flags early on. Cruz McPhee an early slowdown as he tries to explore the track limits, and James Salhani really benefiting from this already as people move around him. He's managed to stay pretty well right where he is, as most of the rest of that top order have just dropped off. Hayden Veld up 3 spots is a great start for him. He's immediately up into third, so for his championship hopes, that is about the best start he could have hoped for. And away we go for 90 minutes of racing here at Silverstone.
Yeah, look at the gap. Thomas Inns, Danny P and Hayden Veld are all the way up there. Hayden's just trying to hang on to that top 2. And bits of action happening a little bit further back in the midfield. There's a ton of things happening in the midfield, but unfortunately the big news, of course, Ryan Palmer around that we heard before there. And Reece Wakefield, unfortunately, not starting this one. I'm not sure if Reece Wakefield's even in the car at the moment, too. That's huge for the championship, considering he did everything right, put it on pole. Big battles going in the midfield there between Mick Poley and Jared Burns. All the gainers at the moment here. At the moment, James Sahani's only one down a couple of positions inside the top 10.
And a safety car has been called by race control.
I'd have to say it would have to be deployed because there is a lot of cars off. Scott Bytine is out of the safety car, of course. but I'm seeing a lot of action. I think it needs to be re-racked, restacked. Kyle Ridley's not somewhere to be seen as well. Somewhere on the track, I think something's happened. He's had to tow back. There's a lot that needs to be recapped in this endurance race. It's absolutely bucketing down outside here in Brisbane as well, too, mate. So I can crank you up on my headphones.
It's pretty impressive. No rain here at Silverstone just yet.
I can hear it.
Danny P and Hayden Veld will be a little disappointed that their massive start is going to come to basically a reset. Someone that looked like that was Ryan Palmer sitting facing backwards in the middle of the track. So I don't know what's happened there. Let's go back and take a look at some of what's happened so far. Brendan Purcell, the first here. Oh, Ryan Palmer was sitting backwards and Purcell just had nowhere to go. So straight into the side of Ryan Palmer there. We might go back and see from the iRacing Designs replay what's happened here. Ryan Palmer gets around, somehow manages to avoid 7 or 8 cars sliding back across the track. I think he might have gone off a little bit earlier as well too, because there was something I think that might have happened, and that caused something, and then it's a rebound effect, domino effect. There's his teammate, obviously, that Brandon Purcell had tapped before too, but the interesting thing is, look at that rear left. That car is absolutely destroyed early on, so that will be what's brought on the safety car.
But one good thing about all this is that now the crews are working frantically under the safety car. Look at the crab walking in from Luke.
What has happened to Luke Newing to cause that? Let's see if we can find this. Luke Newing going off the track fairly early, and just loses on the cold tyres, and big hit on the back there into that wall, and that's completely destroyed.
That's almost like a Max Verstappen into the fence situation. Wasn't that a cops? Hard to see.
Looks like the old pit straight, actually.
The old pit straight, yeah.
It is, yeah.
It might be before.
You can see the amount of damage to that chassis, just the whole rear end of that car completely destroyed, effectively, and so he'll be in to get some repairs done there as we make our way around behind the MC Motorsport safety car here tonight. Not the start we were hoping for here.
Okay. Yeah, feedback from Reese is out. He's not out of the race, sorry. He's back out on the track, so that's a good sign there for the 969 machine. A lot of work to do, obviously, for our pole setter. He's in 29th place, but the good thing that Reese would have on his side at the moment is going, well, it's a long race, so let's see how it pans out for Reese. He certainly, I mean, if you just watch the Formula 1 race, you'd have some inspiration to basically say, starting from pit lane, you can finish yourself in the podium. If you take a book out of Max Verstappen's chapter. So I think for Reese Wakefield, he's a driver that can potentially get himself up on a podium. If anybody could do it, Reese would. So he's got a bit of work to do, but the positive thing is he is here, and that's the key thing as well.
And you know what? He's not missed much, ultimately. And if anything, it's probably kept him a little bit safer than some of the other drivers on track. As we see our safety car make its way back into the pits, Hins will have control of the field as we come back around to the front of the Silverstone circuit. It's quite a long way, actually, from where the safety car peels off to actually get back around to the start-finish line. It'd just be a question of where he decides to make the jump, because it is an awkward corner, especially on cold tyres in the GT3 to be pushing too hard. So he'll start to just lift the pace here, I suspect, as we come around this final turn, but he's going to keep them very, very slow for as long as he possibly can as we go green flag racing once again across the control line. It's a very early control line at that. It's all the way at the back of the starting grid, but Hins leads us on down. You can see already some interesting moves from that was Ian Ward, Michael Whiting, both in amongst it with the Koala Cartel cars there towards the back, and up through the field, some moves going on all over the place. Thomas Kuhl starting to push through where he can as well, and plenty happening as Chris Lashbrook finds himself losing a bit of. We've got Mike Whiting off the background, Chris Miller as well. Yep. So Whiting goes off the back. Chris Miller. So the two Fishy Motorsports cars.
Mick Holly's going around.
This is the thing, right? Cold tyres, and he's made a big impact into that wall. He's lost the rear bar and the rear wing, so hopefully he's aware of that, because that's going to really impact on the grip available to him as the rest of the field starts to get spaced out a little here. There's not a lot in it still, but we are more or less underway here, I think, Biggles.
Mick Polly had another spin as well too, trying to get back on the track. He's got no rear wing, but these drivers are going to remember, we have a long race there. Somebody runs really wide in the background too. I'm not sure. James Sahani runs a little bit wide up the front there. But it's interesting. These drivers are driving. It looks like Liam Jensen might have gone off track. He has. There's collision in the background as well around Liam Jensen. That's back 25th, 24th. That's taken out a couple other drivers as well.
Look at that front right wheel. Absolutely destroyed for Liam Jensen's car. Keith Logan gets caught up in it as well. He's just getting back on track in the background. I don't know if Jensen realizes he's trailing that number of sparks.
I don't know what's going on. This is not a sprint race. Yeah, I would go single file, follow your driver. There's no point in trying to do an overtake, especially through the high-speed sections here at Silverstone, just yet. Just bite your time. You get those opportunities in a couple of laps, but if a driver like this, a good chance you can take each other out. And then you're going to sit down there and get your pit crew to work for the next bloody 30 minutes. It's not worth it.
No, we're all of 8 minutes into an hour and a half racing here, guys. That's the reality. And although there's a mid-pack, you can see in the background, looks like Chris Miller's gone flying off the track and back across into the inner wall as well. So just goes from bad to worse as these drivers...
And they're battling midfield as well, too. Side-by-side action everywhere around here. Ian, Norman Bowman, Dean Powell, Chris Grote, Josh Harris, Michael, they're all doing... Once again, this is a situation when they're going double file through dangerous parts of Silverstone here.
We see
as they're going to come up, it's
getting ahead here.
I can understand the racing, but
it's
too soon.
Oh, look, you know what? I mean, ultimately, it's their call as racers. If they want to take the risk, I suppose they can send it this early on. But they've got to remember those cold tyres. You can see already huge amounts of damage happening all over the track. Logan's in there with the meatball. Brian Palmer is still in there at the moment. So I don't know whether he's elected not to use the fast repair and save it for later, just knowing how much time he's got up his sleeve, or if indeed it's just a mistake and he's forgotten to, tick the box on it before he came on in, because that wouldn't be ideal, but it wouldn't be the first time I've seen it either. Nathan Bowman,
look at this,
staying ahead of Dean Powell for the moment.
Through Beckett's Makers Chapel as well, so I'm thinking about double file through there, gentlemen. That would just be absolutely insane. But then again, these drivers are going for a two for now. They're not, thankfully. They did go single file through there. Oof. I'm going to take a relief. Now, okay, gentlemen, I'd say you're absolutely perfectly fine to do that on the last lap. Absolutely go side by side through there, but don't do it just yet as they make their way down into the final sector of this race. You get through the slow section, of course. You get through the club where all the fancy Silverstone members go, oh, jolly good race. Yes, jolly.
Josh Harris and Liam Tipping just swapping spaces back and forth at the moment. Out in front, Thomas Hinz at the 59.5, just trying to extend his lead. The front 3 or 4 really getting caught by a few of the other faster names in the field. And then a bit of daylight back to Jared Burns here for Black Hawk Motorsport. He's all on his own. He's got a bit of a train starting to kind of form behind him, although he's staying clear of it for now. But 3.5 seconds forward to Salhani, McPhee, Starrett, Veld, Hilton and Hinz. Early days, but that front 6 looking to really make a dent as soon as they possibly can. Jared Burns will have to put the effort in here if he wants to try and catch up to them. And Thomas Gould behind, really struggling to just hold pace at the moment.
Hayden as well, too, is going to put some pressure on Danny P. The big battle for P2 is brewing up, and then there's about a second down the road there from Thomas Hinz, who's leading this race. But you'd have to get an impression here that Hayden Veld is the one that's, he's going to capitalize on this. It's going to be like, where's Reese Bakewell? He's down in P22. So Hayden's like, okay, two championship contenders up the road here. I give myself a whole hurl of points. Obviously, it's very early days, but clearly he's back in advantage. Not the quickest driver at the moment on the track, but, well, I'd have to say probably one of the quickest drivers. Thomas is in clean air. Hayden's got the dirty air of Denny P.
Does indeed, and right behind him, Jackson Starrett, putting on a great show so far, with Cruz McPhee and James Salhani doing their best to stick with him. It's actually, I am a little surprised to see this much space between our top drivers, considering how they've managed to all kind of pull away as a group from the rest of the pack. Now 4.5 seconds back to Jared Burns. It makes me wonder, how much of it is pace differential and how much of it is actually strategy at this point. 90 minutes of racing with a a pretty significant fuel cap in this series means that you actually could stand to make quite an impact if you do decide to run a bit of a fuel-saving race. It's not going to be massive, but every little bit's going to help here. As we see McVie just starting to close in now on Starrett in the Porsche. It's yeah, I don't know what to expect from this front group at the moment, because it seems as though they've got a whole lot of extra pace over the rest of the field, really. Bearing in mind that there's a lot of drivers who have had pretty early instances. You can see, look at the gap back there. You look down that back straight, just daylight. They're almost at opposite ends of the straight already, and we're only 12 minutes in, so there's still plenty of racing to be done. There's plenty of pit stops to be made, but these guys all setting themselves up absolutely beautifully for what should remain of this racing here. That said, everything changes if the rain comes along.
Yeah, and Thomas is putting the bankers down now. Banker after banker, fastest lap after fastest lap. He wants to get that gap increased over Danny P, which he has. It's 1.5 seconds now. So it just clears him to make sure that Danny P gets none of the tow from him, which is clever play. Danny P's more worried about, I'd say, Hayden behind him, and then there's a little bit of a gap back to this big battle for P4 there behind Jackson Starrett. There's Cruz McVille, Sahani, and so those two, and then there's another little pack roaring behind Jarrett Burns there with Thomas Cooley and Ward. Interesting as well too, Ryan Palmer down there for the ADHD. He's on the damage clock still for 11 minutes, so I'd like not to use that fast repair. Perhaps for him, and that late safety car can bring him back into play in this race. It's going to be interesting as Leon Tipping is trying to put some big pressure too on Dean Powell for 12th and 13th.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Like, I can only assume that it's been unintentional from Palmer that he hasn't used his fast repair. But then again, maybe he knows that with a bit of rain, things are likely to change here in terms of the flow of the track, and indeed the likelihood that anyone's going to make it through unscathed goes down dramatically when you start to introduce a bit of rain. So
did I just see a bit of rain?
I'm not sure.
I think might have seen a little bit of rain there for a second, but certain corners, as we're seeing a nice little battle there. Deep Powell. Oh, around goes Norman. Norman goes around, currently in 16th, spinning around again, 17th. So that was contact, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, there might have been a little bit of a touch. We'll take a look. Nathan Bowman just copying it. The iRacing replay just turns in. Look, probably squeezed Dean Powell a little bit too much.
I think Dean had the corner and turned in there. But then again, we're not race stewards, so
I'm certainly glad we're not.
Entertainers, mate. Yep.
Just entertainers. Look, it's a strong word, but it's what we try and do, I suppose. Not seeing, incidentally, anything on the radar just yet. So, yeah, I thought I saw a little bit of something there as well. I feel like we're probably looking at the forecast. It has changed a little bit, but the best chance of rain is probably about 45 minutes from now. So maybe
the best chance of rain would be James from Cruz McVille there, as James might be putting tears in his eyes if he gets his overtake done on the inside.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting spot to try and run alongside. It's such a high-speed circuit. You really have to get very, very solidly in the slipstream and have a pretty significant amount of pace over the person you're trying to pass if you're going to try and get it done along most of the Silverstone circuit, honestly. And Salhani's just not there yet. Not to say he can't be, but he's not there yet. Meanwhile, Jackson Starrett just hanging in there at the moment. Almost 2 seconds. It's getting closer and closer to 2 seconds. The gap forward to Hayden Veld, who in turn is trying to stick with Danny P.
Michael goes around too, so just to let you know, he's cleared, but he's had an incident. He's lost the front wing, a bit of recovery of that one. Yeah, but keep the pictures on that battle, of course, because not too much to show for Michael's damaged car. It hasn't really affected anybody else, but you just don't want to miss the fact that Jackson's under pressure from Cruz, he's under pressure from James, so that's it. Up 3, Jackson and Cruz, James down 2. He wants those positions back.
Yeah, plenty of time though. Doesn't need to do anything silly here, like Cruz McVie. You can see always starting to get a little impatient. We saw a little bit of a blink for him before. Hopefully that's a one-off and doesn't continue, because that'll really throw James Salhani as he makes his way.
Really good exits.
Yeah, that's a good pace. Not quite close enough to make anything of it yet, but you can see, look at Salhani just get the extra drive out of the corner. Now he looks inside. Chris McPhee moves back across, shuts the door very, very hard in Salhani's face. And so he's just going to have to stick with it. Salhani's got to be careful not to back off too much through this complex, because you will very, very quickly lose the advantage. And he's done a brilliant job, to his credit, to stay
This is where you do it.
right
This is
in
where you
behind.
activate your DRS, of course, down the hanger straight, isn't it? If I'm not Wellington, the hanger straight, yeah. But then again, it's a late dive into this corner. In a sprint race, perhaps, but in an endurance race, I would say no.
Yeah, you gotta save these tyres. I mean, the GT3 tyres should be good for a pretty solid hour of racing, as a general rule. We've got probably about 45 minutes left until the rain arrives.
Cruz is going for it on Jackson. And that looks like job done, actually. Cruz McVeil up the
pass.
Yeah. Will he be under pressure? He won't, actually. More than anything, Jackson has to worry about James Sardi putting some pressure on at the moment. So you have to tuck in behind there, regain yourself some speed. You don't want a worst feeling, of course, for a driver, even in an endurance race, to lose 2 places in a matter of a lap.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look at that. The index design, the IRAP design, the replay rather. Just beautiful positioning of the car around the outside, and Chris McVee just finds that little bit of extra traction, gets the drive down, and plants himself in front of that Porsche. Very nicely handled.
And now James making a move up the inside there. I think actually Jackson's backed off and just given low in that position. I think Jackson's thinking a little bit more about the long game here. And that's what you do. I remember engineering some drivers for endurance races, especially 24-hour races, and a lot of the times it's like, just let them through. We fight a battle later on. Also, interesting information that the boss man, Mitch Curry's in a pit lane at the moment, currently spent 12 seconds down there. So early pit stop there for the boss man.
Yeah, look, it's not an awful idea. Remember, they've only got a 50% on fuel cap, and so you're talking, look, probably around about a half an hour of fuel, give or take. It's been so long since I played around with a reduced fuel cap that I can never remember anymore, but these guys will keep us on our toes. We'll start to see a few pit stops here and there coming through, but yeah, Mitch Curry coming in early, maybe just to give himself a little bit more breathing room out there on track. We've got another little pack starting to try it on back here. Liam Tipping all over the back of Dean Power. Chris Lashbrook not too far up the road. Careful for contact there. Tipping really getting close to that rear quarter. He wants to drive out of this turn. Dean Power's going to do everything he can to just hold him off at this stage. But Tipping looking very, very fast at the moment.
Track temperatures 20 degrees Celsius currently at the moment, with wind speeds of just about 9 kilometers. Not too much for these drivers to worry about. Absolutely fantastic. That's the battle out you can see on your screen, and it goes all the way up, basically behind Thomas and P8.
Yeah, it's an interesting field that we've seen, considering how close all of these drivers were in terms of qualifying time. It's really interesting to see just how much the early incidents have really upset people's focus and people's pace. There's nowhere near the nose-to-tail racing that I was probably expecting for this early phase of the race. Now, sure enough, it'll play out over time, but you know, you kind of almost expect them to just be pushing a little bit closer in that first half hour as they settle in. To be fair, you see enough of those drivers come a cropper on the first lap as Dean Power goes around.
Oh,
Liam Tipping did a great job to avoid Power just pushing a little bit too hard on those rear tyres. And he's going to... he's still
be careful, get up the racing line and be predictable. There is a bit of a gap there. No!
That was so close. Nathan Bowman just sneaks through.
Reese Wakefield just came through there. No, Norman. And Reese Wakefield, fastest man on track 58. He's got 2 cars up the road. In fact, 3 cars. Reese Wakefield could take 2 cars into one corner. In fact, 3. There he is. He's up to 15 at the moment, slicing his dicing through the field. He set a 58 in the last lap. Everybody else is doing the 59s. Reese Wakefield, I tell you, he was certainly not out. Basically starting from plump last after whatever reason as to why he couldn't start on the grid. But, you know, never can out Reese Wakefield for the One Performance Racing entry. Up halfway through this field in P15.
not a bad start at all. 21 minutes in, it'll be interesting to see how that impacts on his pit strategy. I think really he's locked in now, isn't he, to having to push hard all the way to the end. Liam Tipping comes into the pits as well, but Wakefield very, very quick at the moment, and certainly a lot of room to catch up as well. Nathan Bowman will be watching those mirrors very, very carefully. He will have seen just how hard Wakefield was willing to push to get that last couple of spots.
And
probably not a bad decision at all. He knows Wakefield is very fast, and at this point, Bowman, the probably best thing that he can do is try and tack onto the back and take advantage. But
it's
look
like those
at
cartoon
Wakefield
characters.
go.
Yeah, it's like those cartoon characters when they have steam coming out of their ears. That's what Reese Wakefield looks like right now. And I think Norman just said, "I'm getting out of there."
100%.
That's not the fight I'm picking at the moment. Norman's working on a different strategy. Reese is just hammering it, which means Reese is going to hammer the absolute living daylights out of those tyres too, setting those fast laps after fast laps when he went in that pit lane, of course, on lap 2. That's going to be interesting. So Dean went, and another situation as well too, Liam Tipping went into pit lane as well too, just on that previous lap to get out of all that shenanigans that's happening.
Get out of all of it, basically. We've got Jared Burns and Thomas Cool now just keeping pace with each other in the upper part of this pack. Cool has been fairly close behind Burns for a while. Looks to be reeling him in pretty quickly now, though.
Yeah, like she was going to say, I'm first in the chat.
First in the chat, why not?
Nobody's chatting there, all quiet out there. Do we bite?
I mean,
bite too much, do we?
To be fair, this racing certainly plenty interesting for its early stage of the enduro round. Second endurance round in the season of the championship, of course. The last one being Mazzano back in round 4, if I'm not mistaken. So another 90 minutes here tonight. And Thomas Gillis, I really expected him to be reeling in Jared Burns there, but not quite. No such issues for Chris Miller, who's trying to fight his way back up through the field. As he goes past Lucas Baker, and the Lamborghini just tucking in behind to try and keep some pace down the straight here. So Miller's still only down 4 spots now on where he was, but keep in mind, of course, the number of drivers that have come into the pits behind him. It's a pretty long list. Ryan Palmer is back out on track, incidentally. 12 minutes in the pit lane. Not exactly a short stop.
Yeah. But he has a fast repair up his sleeve, you would have to say. So that could come into play a little bit later on. You never know. In endurance races, when there's a lot of these drivers have a little bit of damage and things like that occur, and it's like all of a sudden you're going to start seeing the purples come through the roof there from Ryan because he's got the best car in town. You never know how that situation, but Ryan's on the damage limitation, not just the damage clock, but the damage limitation, try to get some points. Nothing that Hayden Bell could do about Danny P as well too. He's been hovering in behind him for half a second and change for majority of this race so far. Thomas is up the road now by 4.5 seconds, so he's comfortably in the lead, but of course remember still these drivers have got to think about their pit stops, as you said. You're expecting when for the tank of gas?
I'd have to think it's getting pretty close for most of these drivers. It depends on how quickly they're pushing, of course, but and how much fuel saving they're managing as well, as we see Danny P, the onboard shot, as he works the wheel through that last couple of corners before coming back across the start-finish line. You usually get about an hour out of a tank with a GT3. Now, given they're running a 50% fuel cap, it stands to reason that a half hour should be about right. But of course, we'll see how that plays out in reality. A couple of stops happening here and there throughout the field, but maybe a few people just trying to get in a little bit early and time their second stop a bit better for what rain may or may not arrive.
That's right, actually. You think about that, because with that rain looming there, Jared, that is an interesting kind of a strategy play, because if you can time it perfectly so that you get right to the end of your stint and then jump in there, slap some perhaps wet weather tyres on then and scoot past a bunch of people if the weather's going to be wet enough. It'll be interesting. So far I'm looking at the radar, no signs of the rain just yet, my friend. But and again, I don't have all the trackside weather reporters like the teams do down there.
Yeah, no, we're guessing in a big way, and it will depend on where that rain looks to be coming from as well. The wind does play a pretty big part. A lot of people don't realise that iRacing doesn't actually necessarily just set the rain to occur at a certain time, but they have a forecast model which is impacted by whether or not the wind is blowing strong enough to bring those clouds across the track. And so tonight with
11 mile per hour wind. It's 11
it's-
kilometre an hour wind, I think, coming from the south, I believe, almost slightly southeast at 13 kilometres an hour. That'll be interesting. There is something that's telling me from the weather gods that there's a slight chance of rain in the next 2 minutes. But it'll be a slight amount of rain, just that typical annoying British rain. If you've ever been to England before, it's just like that. It's like that drizzle rain. It is very typical British rain. It's always gloomy. It's always just like, is it going to rain? It never rains properly. It just rains like drizzly. That Paddington kind of weather may be the situation for now, but obviously not enough for justify the drivers going, I'm going to change the wet weather tyres. This is where that situation came in early for those drivers that came down pit road. They could extend it to right at the point where the rain would be heavy enough to switch it to wets, and they don't need that additional pit stop. These drivers at the moment, if they have to come in the next 5 minutes just for gasoline, they can't. If the rain's not heavy enough, they have to continue on dries, which means they may have to jump in again in another 10 minutes or so if the rain gets heavier to switch over to wets. Then those drivers that have gone in the pit road, like Mitch Carey and stuff, might go, we're going straight to wets. Big smile on their face.
Yeah, and look, I reckon looking at the forecast for tonight's racing, I'm going to be surprised if we actually do see much rain at all. It's starting to evolve a little as the time wears on here. We reach the almost half-hour point of this 90-minute race, and the actual chances of rain have dropped a little bit. I think we're down into the 20% sort of mark at the moment, where we started early on in the night with somewhere around 30-35% chance of rain at around about the 1 hour mark. That's starting to drop away. So whether it means the clouds are clearing or indeed just not moving fast enough to get here is anyone's guess at the moment. As we see, Thomas Cool has had a big moment somewhere in the background there. We'll go and take another look and see what's happening. I hope Designs Replay will pick this up. And it's almost shot for shot for Dean Powell, although Cool saving that a little bit more gracefully, just overcooking the rears.
It's cool.
It is cool.
Chris McVeil's in from P4. So he's elected to go down pit road. This is the first of those pit stops. You said it about that. You called it right there, Jared. I mean, you do enough broadcasting on Simple Racing Broadcast Network to know that. Jared Burns in.
Often enough, right?
Yeah. He said a half fuel capacity for an hour. It's up that 30-minute mark. Cruz is in. Jared Burns is in. These are scheduled pit stops.
To happen.
Yeah. And these guys are no way ever going to go to wet. So nothing's going to happen for those conditions for them. But then again, if it starts getting running heavy or gets heavy or some sort of rain conditions in the next 15 minutes, they'll have to come in earlier. Brendan Purcell, Dean Power in too.
Yeah, look, it's certainly looking gloomy enough from our perspective. The camera's picking up just a bit of fog almost floating around. It's not great conditions, but you know, it doesn't quite feel like the rain's on its way. I mean, take a look at it, 19 degrees, so it's got a little bit cooler. The humidity's still very much present, but the track's starting to cool down, which is great news for these tyres.
Tipping as well too, and some fresh boots coming out of there. He wants to get past Chris Miller as quickly as possible. You'd imagine he'd get past Dean Powell and Brendan Purcell in pit lane that you've just passed right now. There's your weather forecast that you set up there at the moment. So clear skies. You'll see those rain bands. There it is. So Liam does get past. I think Chris Miller just realizes it's not a fight for now. Different strategies. No point in taking each other out in an endurance race when we still have 58 minutes left of this race, plus potential changeable conditions happening. Josh Harris is getting on the back there off Chris Goat as well.
Other way around, actually. Wakefield.
By the way, Reese Wakefield. Yeah, sorry, Reese Wakefield. There he is. So he's up to 11th now for Reese, on a charge, on a rampage. This is why you see a potential world champion here for the MC Motorsport Series, because you've got to drive like a champion, and Reese Wakefield is driving like a champion. James Sahani in pit lane.
Josh Harris, you'll see him just glancing at that mirror screen in the middle. You see his eyes just flick over as he watches Wakefield getting closer and closer behind. Looks like Wakefield about to send it up the inside here, and sure enough, makes the move. Harris just stays out of the way, lets it happen.
Different strategy, yeah. I don't think Harris is going to find that one.
Approach as Harris comes in.
Josh is going in the pit road anyway, so he realised that. So James is in, Jackson Starrett's in, Thomas Cool's in, Chris Goat and Josh Harris all in pit road. Once again, around that 30-minute marker. We're over actually by 32. But remember, we had the caution.
We did, which is going to extend that just ever so slightly.
You're right, yeah.
But not by a great deal, honestly. Most of the drivers are probably just trying to time this at the moment. So around about the half-hour mark coming for your first stop, around about the hour mark coming for that second stop, and just take it all the way home from there. A lot of separation starting to develop here between the drivers as these pit stops start to really mess with the order, and it is a massive guessing game for us.
It is.
Until such times it plays out.
Yeah, I'm curious what Hayden's going to do, because Hayden's been following Danny P for a good chunk of about half a second between them. So what do you do here? Does Hayden think, okay, undercut, overcut? Or Danny P's same situation. How do you defend against this P2 position? Thomas is up the road by 9 seconds. I don't think they're going to try to think about beating Thomas in the pit lane. But between Hayden and Danny P, what do you do? If you're in the shoes of Danny P, do you box earlier there or do you box later? And it's the same thing of Hayden. How could there be a switcheroo potentially? Thomas is in from the race lead.
Which is about right in terms of timing.
Yeah, these drivers, unless they come in, they will inherit the race lead. They're both coming at the same time. There's going to be a pit stop fight between them. This is going to be interesting. Do you short field to get track position, Jared?
That's the question, isn't it? Let's go on board with Hayden Veld and keep your eye on Danny P up ahead. Now we'll see where each of their pit bays actually exist.
You could short fuel as well too, I would say, Jared, because the potential of, if there's rain, you have to switch out to wet weather tyres. You don't have to worry about your fuel going all the way through your predicted stint. So
look, potentially
somebody here should take a gamble.
Potentially, I don't know if there's enough rain forecast that it's worth the risk, honestly. So we'll see them just taking fuel, neither of them taking tyres. They know they've still got another good half hour at least before they think about switching to wets, and that will depend very much on the weather. I mean, in a normal, full bore endurance race with GT3s, you should be able to double stint these tyres. And Danny P gets away a beautiful pit stop. Hayden Veld just a little bit slower to get away, so he's going to have some work to do to catch up by the look of things.
I guess who's in the lead of this race right now? You wouldn't have predicted that one. Well, then again, I would have actually after watching the Brazilian GP. Reese Wakefield.
At a certain point, he's going to be in the lead purely because he hasn't been in for his first pit stop yet.
He was in on, he was on.
He started from the pits, remember? But that'll count on our telemetry as a pit stop. So he's actually not made a stop yet. He just happened to start from the pits on lap 2, more or less.
And they splashed him by 4 seconds, I think, in pit road, didn't they? Give him a little bit of 4 seconds worth of fuel.
I reckon that might have actually just been him getting into the car and waiting to get going. I don't know, honestly.
I'm just surprised he can go 35 minutes into this race on that first tank of fuel.
Oh, he won't be far off. He won't be far off. I mean, it's possible that he's decided to put some fuel in, but see Veld just trying to get some temper into these tyres if you can. They're still the original set, but just the track temp has gone down so much that these drivers are going to struggle to hold anything in it when they're not at race pace. So those tyres will have cooled off a bit purely from that visit to the pit lane. Veld now under all sorts of pressure from Cruz McPhee, the Koala Cartel entry, right on his tail at the moment, and indeed looking to make the move up the inside here. They're going to be side by side down this straight. Yep. There you go, Reese in for his fuel stop. So let's see where he comes out, because he's going to lose quite a lot of positions now. It'll be a question of how much effort he has left.
Yeah, Cruzy got Hayden in the pit stop strategy by Cruzy boxing a couple laps earlier. So that's the undercut working brilliantly.
Absolutely. Chris McPhee having
that will frustrate Hayden for sure here. He's going to want to try to punish quickly, but then again, there's no tyre difference. I believe that's just gasoline. So a good call there for Cruz going in early, and that's actually panned out well for a couple of those drivers that have elected to go in there a couple laps early. That'll be a little bit of a wake-up call for these drivers later in this race. To say the undercut is working brilliantly here around Silverstone, but of course with that potential rain lurking in the distance, we're not quite 100% sure how that will just basically tipsy-turvy a little over again.
It does make you wonder.
The chat, I know everybody's quiet and shy there, but I'm the first. But let us know your predictions. What do you think is going to happen with the weather, the forecast? What drivers you're thinking have the right strategy up their sleeves as deep in this championship? Remember, double points too for this endurance race. So there's a lot here that can make a change in the championship.
It does make me wonder just how much time Haydenveld and Danny P were losing by battling, as opposed to Thomas Hinz just being so fast out in front. For Veld to come out in the middle of McVie and Salhani when they actually had a pretty reasonable gap before pit stops, makes me wonder if, maybe Danny P and Veld were just playing a few too many games alongside each other, or nose to tail there, that have been what slows them down, because Hinz is certainly not pulling away at the same rate of knots that he was now that Danny P's back out from that pit stop. He's not closing the gap, mind you, but certainly not moving it along. Can confirm the Discord chat with Koala Boys and Haydenveld, no rain. So yeah, look, we are watching it
during the whole race, Doc, or what? Because we're
it's there's really unlikely to be any.
You're the doc. I mean, I'm asking you for Doc.
I'm taking a look on the long range radar.
I was going to say, Doc, is it heavy?
There's
it's not going to
nothing.
be heavy, is it, Doc?
There's nothing. There's about a 20% chance.
I don't know what forecast you're looking at, my friend, but you know,
I've 20% chance of rain in about 20 minutes. And
no, I'm seeing less than that.
That is not enough for my liking to expect any sort of need for wets. What we might get is a light sprinkling, and perhaps a few slippery moments, but I actually don't think we'll get that at all. There's nothing on the long range, and not a lot of breeze to get it.
You
moving
haven't lived in
here.
England, Jared.
Have you lived in England before? I'm trusting the radar.
I've lived in England. Okay, a couple of black flags there from Lucas Baker and Luke Newing as well too. Not quite sure. That may be off-track excursions. Come to think of it, not more than anything else a pit lane speed. But yeah, we live in London, mate. That weather's very unpredictable. It gets slippery and slidey. It's very cold. It's getting colder. Might be a spit or two, but literally nothing to worry about in these drivers.
Yeah,
Doc,
that's what I'm expecting.
Have you lived in the United Kingdom, mate? I don't know. I've been to Silverstone many a time. Well, not in real life, but I've lived in the UK, and you can't predict that weather, mate. As Hayden's still fighting with Cruz.
Look, you might not be able to predict it, but the radar is looking very, very empty at the moment. Well, let's bring our weather up again, just for those who are watching at home and might be interested. You can see the
at 17
radar,
11 miles kilometers an hour. It's coming in.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing on the long range.
That's cloud cover.
That's cloud. Look, there's definitely cloud cover around. I'll give you that. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, it might be UK. Yeah, that's right. Tasmania is essentially similar to the UK.
Basically the same.
As James Arnie's going to try to chop in. Sorry, he's basically saying to Hayden right now, all right, mate, you've got Sabrina's carpentry. Let's see if you can chisel your way past Cruz McPhail. He hasn't yet, so James is like, I'm going to have to try to hammer my way past you. There you go. I'm trying to do carpentry references here.
You're trying real hard, Pickles. I'll give you that. You are absolutely trying hard. To see the massive amount of heat off the exhaust there of Haydenveld's Lamborghini. It's a pretty dangerous spot, honestly, for us to put our cameras. But anyhow, it'll be fine, probably. We can see,
got
though.
A Mitre car there from Haydenveld.
This is what he's been looking at for the last little while.
He can cut his way to the top anytime he wants. Anyway, we're not going to keep continuing on that.
That is a stretch.
References.
That is an absolute stretch, Biggles. But I'm here for it. Mick Poley has
that's
had another moment.
My commentary, isn't it?
No.
Yeah, you went there.
Mitch Curry, meanwhile, has started to reel in Josh Harris, the ADHD driver, just not finding his rhythm here at Silverstone tonight. And Curry, the Ferrari, going from strength to strength since that mid-season change of vehicle. He's right
he
in
pitted on
behind.
lap 8 too, remember? So he's got... He taken this little... he's going to push it to Josh Harris, but remember, he went down really early. I think this is the strategy. Mitch Curry was kind of like, I'm hoping for that weather to come and play so he can just go, hopefully it's going to be raining right now, switch it over to the wets and then just jump everybody in the field, but no rain so far. According to the doc, according to yourself.
Mate, we're not going to get any.
We are getting rain.
No, it's not happening.
I got pop-up sprinklers that are about to come here for the British Garden.
Honestly, could they add that iRacing? Of all the things you could add, that would be pretty cool. Like the ability for us to just chuck an admin command in and
it's
get some
coming in 15
sprinklers.
minutes.
No, there's not going to be
10
any.
minutes,
There's
maybe.
not going to be any. I'm telling you now, Biggles, it's going to stay
Mitch
bone
Curry gets
dry.
past Josh Harris.
There you go. Easy as you like, ultimately. Josh Harris just struggling along tonight. The Mercedes not enjoying Silverstone at all, which is a little surprising, honestly. Up the front here, Cruz McVie, Hayden Veld, James Salhani, positions unchanged for the moment, but certainly the three of them unable to just break the little train they've got going on here. It's not costing them any time, which is probably the best thing. I take back what I said earlier, though, about Veld and Danny P. Must have been battling too hard or something, because even with the clean air, Danny P cannot stay with Hins. Hins is up to 12 seconds ahead at this point. He is absolutely flying. And it's not necessarily that he's the quickest on track, but he is so consistent. It's just basically a 59 flat every single lap. Not the fastest. Reece Wakefield's gone almost a half second quicker at some point. But Thomas Hins.
Reece is the one rigged for. Reece is, don't count it, Reece is in P10 at the moment after taking that pit stop on lap 17, the lap after those leaders. Cruz took it on lap 14 for the undercut, which has given him ahead of Hayden Veld and James, which is given track position, which is key currently at the moment, which you'd have to say this is an indication for the rest of the field here. Track position in your pit stops is going to pay dividends later on in this race. But Reece Wakefield, of course, what can Reece do? I think Reece is thinking of a podium with halfway through this race, so 44 minutes into this race, 45 minutes remaining. Got to be thinking of a podium for sure. Jared Burns putting a bit of pressure at the moment. Liam is on Jared Burns, and that's the battle currently in the moment for 7th and 8th at the moment. If I say at the moment again, my voice coach is going to murder me for theatre. But there it is. You have to, Liam is up 20 places for the koala cartel. That's it. You don't mess with the koalas in Australia. Like, only thing that scares a koala would be a drop bear. And at the moment, I don't think there's any drop bears out on the track. So the koala cartel are in full force here in Silverstone.
This is one of the things.
Scaring the Brits
Liam
too.
just didn't set a qualifying time ultimately, and so he certainly had to pace the whole way through, and he is just gradually moving up through the field, just taking it car at a time, and up a very, very long way from almost dead last, actually. Kyle Ridley, incidentally, properly out of this race, which is a real shame to see after he's had a few good weeks in a row, and I don't think it's from any particular issues along the way. He had a pretty good start, all things considered, but just struggled the whole way through, and I think he's just decided that tonight is not going to be the night for the SLM Motorsport entry. He has parked it up. This battle continues. Cruz McVie cannot shake Hayden Veld. Veld's doing everything he can to pull him back in at the moment. They're still not really catching Danny P at any great rate of knots. They're still sitting a few seconds off the back. But the three of them, it's hard to decide who's going to blink here.
This is going to be, it's close. Because with that weather, and I think you might be right there, Doc, and I think you might be right there, Jared. I had another little guy come in my ear and say, okay, Biggles can give me a little bit of feedback on the weather. There's not going to be much. So they're probably that situation of no rain. Yeah, believe it or not, in Silverstone, if you just tuned in, yes, Silverstone, not a wet race. It has happened in the history of motor racing. Once in 1936, once in 1945, and now in 2025, we're not going to have rain in Silverstone. But it's going to. Mitch Curry's coming in finally because he went in a little bit earlier. And at the moment, if you are the likes of Hayden, if you are the like of James, you're going to have to think about doing this on track overtakes, because with no weather conditions changing, if they're going to be thinking about a podium, Reese McFeel is a situation that they have to get past for the number 39. And because Danny P's up the road by 3 seconds and change, and Torres Thomas is up the road by, he's almost in France at the moment, under the tunnel, 12 seconds down the road.
A long way up in any case. As you go on board with Thomas Cool, currently sitting in 12th. He's only up 3 positions so far, but of course it's all a bit topsy-turvy from some of those early misadventures that a few of these drivers have experienced. Thankfully, Ian Ward up ahead just hasn't had any of those either. He's currently sitting pretty comfortably in 11th. The big movers though, Liam Tipping up 20 spots. Reese Wakefield, look, he's showing us down 9, but realistically he is up about 20 spots because he started late and from dead last in the pits. So to be up into even a remotely contention for a top 10 finish is pretty bloody impressive. We see Liam Tipping just makes the move up the inside. Jared Burns drops it back to 8th. The Tipping picks up another spot. Finally, that's up 21 now. But Burns not done with this. He's looking for an opportunity to perhaps just push his way back through. Unfortunately, just can't find it. And Tipping will start to fly away into the distance and secure himself another spot and some extra points if he can hold it for the rest of this race. We're just past the halfway point of this 90-minute enduro here at Silverstone for MC Motorsport's French Car Care GT3 Championship. This is, of course, round 8, and Biggles, it's getting closer and closer to crunch time for a lot of these drivers. The really interesting one, I think, will be what impact this has on Reese Wakefield's lead if he doesn't manage to get too much further up through the field from where he is now. In saying that, he's right on the back of Chris Lashbrook, and he's looking to move to 9th now.
Yeah, he's going to be getting that one done. Chris, for the ADHD machine, does not need necessarily to let him through. Reese is down 8, but now make that, down 8 currently at the moment, give or take. He's still battling with him. But that's fantastic. Yeah, of course, it's all about the French Car Care, of course, which is sponsoring this series. And they specialise, of course, in service repair of Citroën, Peugeot, Renault, Fiat, all the kind of French manufacturers, if not just other cars as well too. So you can give me a little bit of a call there. Give Dennis a phone actually, and be able to sort that out. They've been doing it for a long time actually, probably since I was even born, and he's based here in Brisbane, Queensland.
Yeah, family business. The Capital family have been running that for at least a few generations now that I am aware of. As Danny P picks up a slowdown, so he's been pushing hard and still dropping time to Thomas in. Now pushing a little too hard. Mitch Curry looks up the inside of Brian East. He's going to get this done. This Ferrari absolutely performing for Curry at the moment. Picks up another spot. He's up into 21st.
Did he take tyres, Mitch Curry?
No.
Doesn't look like it.
No, none of these drivers are taking tyres.
Right.
You won't find any of these drivers taking tyres unless they have to switch to wets. These tyres should last easily 2 hours.
They're going to murder him in the slipstream down here, but Mitch Curry's going to have to do whatever he can defensively from Brian East and Liam, and he will actually. So good job there for the boss man. But he will have
nothing to it.
He's got a couple of shadows behind him essentially at this point, isn't it? Start trying to shake your shadow. It's really hard to do, mate.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to do if Peter Pan's taught me anything at all, mate.
You tried that when you were a kid? I can't get rid of the shadow. It keeps following me around.
So I'm not sure. I'm really not sure if I did ever try it. I don't think I saw Peter Pan until I was an adult. Anyhow, Brian East just can't quite stick with the Ferrari at the moment. Mitch Curry starting to pull away into the distance. So East will now have to just keep his attention on Liam Jensen behind another one of those Koala Cartel entries. Plenty of them getting around the track in that striking yellow and black livery.
And yeah, it certainly has been the night for the Koala Cartel entries.
I need to ask them, actually. Yeah.
Far away.
Go ahead. No, I was just wondering why the yellow and black there for the Koala Cartel. I've never seen a yellow koala, but if I've seen one on the racetrack right now, I guess I need something to make them striking. For the 360 machine.
I don't know if it's that deep, honestly. I think the yellow and black just look bloody good.
Oh, it might have the inside here, and that very much should be job done. I think sure Brian can do too much about that. I tucks him behind there and says, I surrender to the cartel of the koalas. And that puts Liam up. Down 8, unfortunately, in this race, but currently in P22. Remember, they've taken a pit stop, and he took a pit stop lap 18, so we've got a little longer than most of the front runners at the moment, but near those few extra laps keep getting some positions. Liam tipping for the other teammate. So he's elected to send the other koala down the pit road.
Yeah, and look, as we take a look back from Cruz McPhee's car here at Hayden Veld and James Delhoney, who have just been stuck behind him at the moment. Whether they're just trying to take advantage of the aero and save a little bit of fuel, or if they really just can't find the extra pace, it's hard to say. But taking a look at the sky, a few clouds around, really nothing of any substance. So the threat of rain well and truly over at this point, you'd have to think. And these drivers can really focus on just pushing hard to the end.
You're right. You and Doc out there are all right, okay.
Occasionally.
Okay, I'm wrong. I put my hand up there. Yes, I'm wrong.
Look, it happens, Wiggles. It happens. And,
yeah, I know.
You know, there's always a bit of excitement when it comes to a forecast that includes rain, because it can introduce such a different dynamic to any race, much less an enduro.
I had so many this week in racing. Keep an eye on Hayden Veld. He's going to put some massive pressure right now on Cruz. He's been following him around here for a half a dozen at least or more laps, and he needs to strike when the iron's hot. But essentially at the moment, Cruz just went down lap 14. Hayden's got a couple more laps there. Cruz took the undercut. Now what's going to happen to the situation? He's going to get a little bit tired, I'd have to say, there for the Lamborghini, for the 153 there, to be following around.
You know, I actually don't think that Hayden Veld needs to pass at this point. McVie is setting a pretty decent pace, generally speaking, you know, into the 59s. And, excuse me, folks, they are starting ever so slightly to catch Danny P up ahead. So Veld probably figures that if he can just sit in behind and enjoy the tow here, he's going to have a little bit more fuel up the sleeve to actually attack when they do catch up.
I think he knows the Koala Cartel calls for them, the Koala Cartel to go in, because you have the two of the Koala Cartel cars in there. They've been giving that feedback to Cruz right now, as in what's going to feel like when they come back out. And that's the situation. Hayes going to apply that pressure, but Cruz has managed it. It's a difficult part to overtake, isn't it? But now you're coming through the slow section of Silverstone here at the moment, when you pass all the grandstands and sip on your tea that you hurl in the sea as the cars drive by.
Slow section at Silverstone is still not particularly slow in the scheme of things. It's a very, very fast track all the way around, and you wouldn't think so. A 2-minute lap, like, it does sound like a pretty long and slow lap, but it's actually just that long of a track. You know, even at the relatively high average speeds that you get around here, it does take a long time to get around. And the slow parts are just not that slow. You're not getting all the way down to 50, 60k an hour for some tight hairpins, anything like that. As we come down the old pit straight once again. Yeah. And this is a groundhog day for Hayden Veld. He's been stuck looking at the back of that car for so long.
Yeah, I just wonder how far he's going to want to stretch this one. Is he going to think of the undercut right now? Because it worked for Cruz. So what can he do?
Look,
Cruz went down a couple laps early in these guys.
I don't think so. I think the smart thing for Veld to do here is just follow McVie's lead. He's got James Delhoney. He's got a great exit in the Mustang there. He's going to have a look up the side of Hayden Veld.
It's the problem when you find the car on the road, isn't it? You're looking in your mirrors.
Yeah, Delhoney's got a great bit of pace, but just dropped in behind. So had a brief moment where he could have had a shot at it. Unfortunately, couldn't make anything of it. I think Veld has to just follow McVie's lead right up until he sees him go in. And at that point, Hayden Veld needs to just think about, okay, how much longer can I go with the fuel I've got? Take advantage of the clear air. You know, has he saved enough to pick up some time here and actually open the car up a little bit more than he has, or has he actually been pushing full noise the whole time? It's a little tricky to
Cruz
say.
did this last time. He went down a couple laps earlier and he jumped him, which was a frustration. I'm wondering why Hayden and James haven't elected to do the undercut, because it seems to be a little bit more high and mighty here.
The really
Obviously a different circumstance early in the race because we had them a little bit more bunched up, but now that they've spread out, we'll see how it pans out there.
the interesting thing, McVie coming in now, he's going to have a little bit over half an hour of racing left as he comes out of the pits. I reckon he's going to be running pretty tight on fuel with a 50% fuel cap. It should be enough, but it's going to be probably a lot closer than he'd ideally like it to be. So there may actually even be some fuel saving in his future.
Well, as long as you've got track position.
Well, yeah, I mean, ultimately
I think
not
it'd
so
be
bad.
better because obviously, if that was the situation, if Hayden and James were so much quicker, why didn't they clearly get past him? They didn't in that circumstance. So I think I'd rather take track position and defend and a little bit of fuel saving rather than having to burn through your fuel to attack, to overtake. That might be the better situation, and I think that'll be the situation. See how it pans out, of course, once Hayden and James do head down the pit road, as we're looking currently at the moment of Cruz coming out of his
middle of
situation
Harrison
after taking his pit stop.
with
He
Ryan
needs to clear
Palmer
these
ahead.
guys as quickly as possible as well too, because if he doesn't, if it costs him any time, he may potentially lose a podium position.
Yeah, and look, for the moment, he'll be enough where he is. But yeah, he'll want to think about getting Irvine a little further up the road. Not far up the road, mind you, but Ian Ward now has Thomas Cool reeling him in. So another Koala Cartel Aston. It gets hard to tell them apart, but trust us, it is Thomas Cool this time around. And Ian Ward will try and keep his pace up, but will be under some pretty significant pressure here. That gap has just fallen lap after lap after lap. And now Cool is, you can see him just taking a little bit of a look up the inside, just seeing if there's enough room to try and push for something and get the car up alongside as they come across the line to start a whole new lap. We're almost an hour into this hour and a half enduro, and you've got to think that Thomas Hinz out in front he's got this wrapped up, surely.
Yeah, Reese Wakefield P6, but Reese Wakefield has to come down. Thomas, everybody has to come down essentially from P1 to P13 or so for another final pit stop. Actually, sorry. Cruz McField's basically essentially the net leader in pit stops. He's running P11. So see if that pans out a little bit further on for this field.
Go
That's the
further back.
situation.
Liam Tipping.
Oh, a little wide there from Ian. That should allow Thomas through.
We
It will,
look
actually.
away, honestly. We'll come back.
Sorry, I
sure
didn't mean
enough.
to look away. Yeah,
No,
so
no.
Thomas will get that position.
Excuse me, folks. In the end, yeah, Thomas Gould gets it done. Ian Ward just...
Oh, he'll attack. He'll attack now. We've got the slipstream.
Yeah,
He
look,
should.
I don't know that he's going to have the pace. Cool, once he's released, already at half a second of gaining, so he's just
Keep an
biding his
eye
time.
on James as well too. I think he's going to try to put pressure onto Hayden.
Keeps having a look at it, doesn't he?
Yeah, and the thing is, right now he's going to try to put pressure on him to make him fly. What I would do is get him the
look, it's further
gearbox
back.
of. Oh yeah, absolutely. This one. This is
Burns,
about
Milliken,
14,
Tipping.
15, 16.
Oh, a bit of contact there.
Oh.
Milliken and Tipping going side by side. Tipping just misjudging how much room there was. Milliken
Oh,
squeezed him
that's-
all the way to the inside. Tell you what,
Nice.
boys, you've still got half an hour of racing here. Doesn't
That's
bode
all right.
well if you
No, I want him
slide.
to sprint race right now. This
Well,
is
I
great.
mean, at this point, it's a sprint race home, right?
Yeah, it's a sprint
Next
race.
pit
Yeah.
stop. Jackson Starrett's in for his second stop, so he'll drop from 5th down through the order as he goes in. Thomas Hinzo out in front, who we haven't really seen since the very start of the race. We probably should check in
he's
with him
out there.
at some point, you know.
Yeah, we'll pull him into the booth and have a chat to him. Look what I see Liam taking a...
Wow, Liam Tipping just charges through.
I think Jared lifted a little bit that one. He's also battling with Charlie. Playing a little strategy difference on that one because Charlie's going in the pit road. That's exactly the reason
That
why
would
he didn't
explain
want
it.
to fight
Absolutely.
with
And now Chris McPhee still right in behind Josh Harris. Hasn't managed to find his way through. This is going to be
And
frustrating.
Josh Harris is going to be holding him up at the moment. He's going to be fielding that one. Josh Harris is going to be, I didn't hold you up, mate. I gassed this thing. I've got like, you know, I'm a bootlegger. I've got like 10 tons of moonshine on the back of this car. I'll go to the end of the race. Don't you worry about that.
He can't have much left.
You can't do that.
He can't have much left. Josh Harris.
He can't.
He'll have to be.
But Josh Harris should slow him down. They're not teammates. Josh is going to help his teammates out there for the ADHD racing, of course. He's not in the koala cartel. If he can do his best at helping his teammates around him, he's going to be like, I'm going to make it very difficult for you, Cruz, and he should.
Yeah, well, 15 seconds up the road is Ian Ward, right? So the longer that Harris can hold him up here.
Absolutely. That's what you do as a teammate. You slow your opponent down as much as you can.
What Josh Harris will be happy
not
about.
let Stroll kind of slowing
Yeah,
your
no, that's into a wall never helps.
Yeah,
never helps. Charlie Milliken coming out of the pits as Brendan Purcell and Dean Powell fly by on the main part of the track. Vince Salvatore has been pretty quiet this race, but finds himself with, would you believe, another Koala Cartel car hassling him. These Aston Martins are everywhere. I swear, it doesn't matter where we look.
Everywhere, mate. Jeez, I'm not going back of Australia anymore.
Yeah, so much for them being getting close to the endangered species, let's say.
Thomas calls in as well too. If you're speaking of a koala cartel, so there you go, endangered species into the pit road there to get.
Will Harris be coming in on this lap?
Yeah.
Looks like he will. I reckon sticking far
he
over.
is.
There we go. He comes in. Chris McPhee obviously keeps going.
Did his job. He did his job. Good job. He slowed him down a little bit. They might make a difference towards the end of the race. Absolutely.
We've got a few little battles going on around the place. Liam Jensen and Vince Salvatore deep into it at the moment. Jensen just looking for any way past after what was a pretty eventful and less than ideal start for him, getting caught up in a few incidents along the way. Finds himself at the moment down 5 from where he started, but starting to make his move back through the pack. Hayden Veld and Danny P finally starting to get in amongst it as Salvatore comes into the pit. Dean Powell as well, side by side with the Mustang of Brendan Purcell, the privateer entry. Very much side by side as Powell squeezing him all the way across. If you're going to go defensive, then Dean Powell is going to make sure you commit to that. And sure enough, Powell makes the most of it, widens the corner up for himself.
Race leaders in spot.
Thomas Hinds in, finally.
Yep.
Now, Velvet Salvani.
Oh, but we also said Sahani, yeah, that's right, yeah. And this is going to be a nice little battle. This could be a battle before pit lane as well between the two drivers. They did come in lap 16 and 15 prior to the first pit stop. Now they're all in. It's going to be a battle in pit road.
That was an interesting decision there from Veld. I don't think he was committed to that.
Here, mate.
Yeah, I don't think he was committed.
Ferrari pit crew.
Ryan Easton now with Josh Harris side by side. Chris Crowder.
He's got the pit box that's ultimately going to reflect them too, because you've got to remember they can go through on the inside of the pit lanes. But another situation, as you can see in your pictures as well, to some fantastic battle down through the field there. But with drivers in pit lane, they can go through, and it depends on your qualifying position as to your pit box that you can get. Now, if you have to go through a car, that can all of a sudden you see your lollipop guy going, hey, stop here, and you're like, oh, I just noticed you in the last second. So it's all happening.
Thomas Hinds is out, and Reese Wakefield is within half a second behind him. Obviously, Reese still another pit stop to make, or does he?
No, he doesn't.
He's made his second, so that gives you an idea of just how quickly Wakefield's been moving up through the pack.
Yeah, he was 22 seconds in pit lane. He gassed it up, mate. He gassed that mother up, per se. I won't say that on the air, of course.
No, that can't be right. No, he's absolutely got another stop here.
No, he's gassed it.
He came in on lap 17.
He's fine.
This is lap 31 that Hinds has come in. So Wakefield's absolutely got another stop here. I'm sitting here thinking, hang on, the numbers are all wrong. They are absolutely out of whack because of his pit lane start. And so Wakefield, although he's right on Hinds' tail, and these guys will have a...
He'd be praying for a caution right now, actually, if anything.
100% would be. Because they've got
Jackson
16 and a half seconds.
So there is a possibility they could... Where's Jackson? No. Ian Ward's gone off track. Oh, the cold tyres. Just off a little off-track excursion.
I'm not seeing too much of that from my end. So anyhow,
Josh
chance for
Harris
lead.
and Chris Croat in amongst it.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, I think Hinz, if he's playing a smart game here, he's not going to get too caught up with Wakefield. He'll be looking at that gap to Danny P. So there's
He
Wakefield
does it
in
now.
now.
Reese is in. Yeah.
So that was never going to last particularly long. Wakefield's going to fuel it up and try and make the run home here. Danny
He
P,
needs to
17
go.
seconds back. Thomas Hinz just dominating here at Silverstone.
Yeah, Tom's got this one in the bag. Penny doesn't make any mistakes himself. Oh, of course, a caution will bring you back into play. However,
Honestly,
Thomas has got to just go and just basically pretend there's no caution. I hope there's no caution so he can keep that demanding gap that he has, that commanding gap.
I think
general,
the size of the
Thomas
gap that he's
Hinz-
got is so big that you'd
Yeah.
almost expect him to to have a safety car come out and it actually not bother him. I know
Well,
that's not
later
how
on
it
in the
happened,
race,
but
he
geez,
might have
17
a
seconds.
luxury of jumping in there, putting some fresh boots on there, and secure himself a fastest lap as well. Just a injury insult.
Honestly, not even worth it. Not even worth it at this point.
Look,
Unless there was
if
a
Max Verstappen can do it,
significant benefit.
anybody can do it.
What Hinz will be watching now is where Wakefield actually finishes this race, because being that the points are doubled, ordinarily you're talking, maybe 2 or 3 points between each position, but because all of the points are poured into one race here tonight, what you're going to see is more like 7, 8, 9 points between each position. So if Wakefield does finish back in around kind of 6th, which, given where he's at, it's probably where he's going to finish up with 22 minutes left to go. You'd expect him to finish somewhere around 6th, maybe 5th. That's going to be a fair chunk out of his lead, and Thomas Hinz finishing at the top is only going to bolster his point score overall. So it'll be interesting to see just where we predict they will land after this round when we do take a look at the standings later, because I think that top of the table is going to just tighten up a little bit further again.
What can Thomas do to help his teammates out, what I would say? Is it worthwhile Thomas slowing down and allowing Danny P to get close to him? And can he help anybody else out, really, at the end of the day? Because...
well, ultimately, no other HR Jinx Shifters entries on track, so he's,
so he can't
he's
help
always own.
anybody else
There's
out.
not really much of anything you can do other than finish first that's going to help anyone any differently here tonight. So
He doesn't want Danny P to have a good result. That's for sure. Because Thomas is second in the championship, Danny P's third, right, going into this race.
Yeah.
Reese Wakefield. He doesn't want Reese Wakefield to get any further than P6 at the moment. He doesn't want Reese Wakefield to get past Cruz, to get past James, Hayden, Bell, and stuff like that. So who can he help at the end of the day? If I was Thomas, I would be thinking about, or if Thomas is engineer, who can I help? I want to help everybody but Danny. I wouldn't mind helping Hayden. I wouldn't mind helping Jade. I wouldn't mind James. Kyle, unfortunately, is nowhere around to be helping. And Ryan's nowhere around to be helping, of course. Those drivers in the championship. So if I was Thomas, I would somehow want to help Hayden, at least. But definitely not help Reese, and definitely not help Danny B.
I've got to be honest with where Thomas Hinz is. I don't think he's thinking about anything at all except just staying out in front. Because ultimately, there's nothing else that he can do at this point.
Yeah, you want to do winning, yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing
Is
else
there anything you can do
that's
in your
worth-
control to change anything in this race? I don't think so.
No, I mean the gap. Let's assume that Hinz gets really, really charitable and can see some sort of benefit. Assuming that he's even able to think of this stuff as Bowman gives Chris Crowe a little bit of a nudge along there. Assuming that he's even thinking on the fly and that there is some kind of way in which Hayden Bell getting ahead of Danny P will somehow benefit Thomas Hinz, which I can't see there being much chance of. He's not going to give up almost 18 seconds of lead to then try and hold Danny P up enough to bring Hayden Bell 8 seconds forward. That's just
But
just not gonna
chasing
happen.
down lap cars, and then your lap car could be your ally, and then go, all right, well, let's go side by side for a little bit to not allow anybody.
Tell you what, mate, it's a pretty unlikely scenario.
I'm always a strategist. I always think about a way that you can maximize your points in the championship.
If we were talking, 18 hundredths of a second back to Paulton, then perhaps. But at this point, Thomas Hinz, there's just no way, and there's no need for him to
to even remotely consider anything other than keeping the head down, bum up, and driving hard all the way through the remaining 20-odd minutes of this Enduro.
You're right.
Dean Powell, incidentally, this is where he picked up the black flag for incident points just a little bit earlier. Another couple of incident points. We've seen it happen a few times tonight for Dean.
I never get my head around incident points when you actually spawn inside the white lines as well.
Well, ultimately,
It's just
you've lost
iRacing
control.
thing.
You've lost control, and
Well,
the whole
yeah.
idea is that they're meant to encourage predictable and safe racing. And
I think AI is clever enough to predict that it was a self-spin within the white lines as Chris goes a little... Oh, Chris goes out wide! Chris on the apron from P16. Now he's got a 10-second gap down the road there to the other Chris, who's not the Chris Law Firm, but Chris Fishy Motorsports entry will be charging down the main straight right now, putting some pressure on the other Chris. Chris Grote was unfortunate to lose one position on that little spin. But he's going to have to defend P17 at the moment, down one place when we start this race.
yeah, Chris Miller will absolutely sense opportunity here. Croat just will have a whole bunch of extra temp in those rear tyres, so the likelihood of him spinning that Mustang again is pretty high for at least the next half lap or so. Miller's going to have to do everything he can to capitalise.
You got to attack 100%. While your predator's scared and intimidating the predator, put it this way.
Speaking about scared though, Chris Croat keeps popping in and out. And
yeah, that's scary as well too, isn't it?
It's not as bad as I've seen sometimes, but it's just enough that Miller's going to be second guessing when is an appropriate time to try and make a pass and when to actually have a go at it. When he's sitting half a second back like he is, it's probably less of a concern. If he starts to get to within a tenth or so as he sets up to make a pass, it's terrifying.
And what would he do, Jared? He'd be probably on the team radio, just like they are in, if you watch Formula 1 races, to race control, FIA. Lean tipping as well in pit road there for Kuala Katel from P8. So these drivers may very well get close to jumping that position. But what will happen, of course, is that Chris will be complaining about Chris on the team radio to race control. If he's blinking a little bit too dangerously in the corners where I overtake, similar this way situation too. Not on your pictures, but that's the situation that's happening. And he'll be saying to race control, look, I can't see where the driver is at the moment. It's like I got Formula 1 mirrors on my car, even though he's looking forward. And race control will look at that one a little bit. If they do deem that it's a situation where it's a little bit funky per se, then they will order the number 48 forward to say, just lift off and we'll let the position through because it's deemed as unsafe for race control. That's the way you'd have to deal with that situation because unfortunately, it's just the way that the technical world works when we're all over different locations throughout Australia and New Zealand and where else in the world.
The interesting thing though, Biggles, is that it was only a couple of seasons ago that iRacing introduced the connection flag, right? If your connection quality dropped below a certain point, then it was meant to basically park you from the race until your connection improved.
I disagree with that. Yeah.
I've not seen any evidence that it actually works particularly well. And now I don't know if they maybe don't have it turned on for this session.
It's got to be really horribly
pretty bad.
Yeah. I think we have luxury of fantastic race control here at the MC Motorsports. We have that, so we have actual race control looking at that. So they will talk to the drivers or communicate to them, and they'll say, drivers don't know that. Remember, so they're getting this information from race control to alert them to that situation. We've seen a fantastic battle at the moment between Hayden Bell and James Harden. We've seen this a few times. In fact, we're seeing an attack now because James realizes maybe no change in control. Both these drivers went down
side by side. Miller goes through.
Yes, there it is.
Gets it done easily in the end.
I wonder if there's a call-up, of course, to their linking, but that comes back to that race control. Mitch Curry comes in for P11 too for his final pit stop in this race. So that's the situation, and race control have to determine from a series of events that occurred, not just like a couple of laps, but they'll go, all right, is this a situation where it's difficult for the other drivers to race? And if that's a situation that's deemed, I would say let the driver pass that's battling with them, okay, until it perhaps sorts itself out. Maybe your girlfriend or just turning the microwave oven, it's affecting your Wi-Fi. Hopefully you're not driving on Wi-Fi as well, you gentlemen. But, you know, you never know.
Yeah, look, I don't...
These things stabilise themselves after a period of time. I mean,
I
I've
honestly
broadcasted before and it drops out a little bit and it comes better.
Yeah, and you know, we
never
see that occasionally, just a little hiccup here and there on our broadcast, right, Biggles? But
Yeah.
I don't know that... I don't know that these guys aren't aware of it, honestly, because if you are racing to the... and you are seeing that blinking, it should mean that...
But you're not blinking. As a driver, you aren't aware that you're blinking.
Well, you should be aware because you should see all the other cars around you blinking, and that's
right. Okay.
That's the standard thing that people tell you to watch for is if all the cars are blinking, it's you that's the problem. If you see one car blinking,
I can't always guarantee that's going to be
it.
the 100%. I think a race control letting you know would be the absolute solid thing.
But that's
we have a race control.
See it, right?
So that's the luxury of it. The race control could, you know, tell the driver there's a situation with some fantastic racing at the moment for P3. Let the driver know, you know, just move across, lose the position, and continue. We don't want to send you down a pit road for, you know, a potential packet loss, you know, technical issue, essentially in the iRacing world, which would be like a technical issue on a race
You're a
car
much
in real
kinder
life.
man than I am. I honestly think race control should be
I wouldn't park
drivers
anybody
more often
unless it continued more. I've seen it come better, and we're seeing this fantastic action at the moment there because James is putting massive pressure on Hayden. Hayden wants as many points as possible. He's missed a couple of races. James is like, I'm putting pressure, my friend. I could smell the podium. I could taste the champagne. It's all in my racing suit. I'll be as sweaty as it is in a good chunk of change of 11 minutes from now. And why not battle for that final podium position? Because it's worth a chunk of points.
And here we go. Salhani gets a good run, and Bell moves across late into the braking zone, jumps on, and tries to hold this position. But Salhani has just got his measure at the moment. That Lamborghini not performing the way that Bell would probably like, and Salhani alongside through this twisting back and forth section just might have a shot at it. Veld comes across, shuts the door there. Salhani has to stay in behind. Veld is just barely holding on to this position, but now Salhani gets the drive. Veld's staying very, very defensive. He's going to be on the inside. Salhani can't quite get alongside at the moment, so unable to influence too much the aero over Veld's Lamborghini. He's going around the outside here, which is going to absolutely chew tires. Gets pushed wide there, but gets it done. Can he hold it through these next couple of corners? He's on the inside here as we come to these final two. Clips a curb and then clips Hayden Veld. He's going to give that position back up again. Rightfully so. No, you see.
A good exit here down the pit straight.
Yeah,
starting a lap at the moment, but I don't think you'll be thinking about overtaking around through here. It's high-speed section, and then you get slower. It's potentially under heavy braking. What's he going to do? No, he shows the dummy a little bit, doesn't do it. Cruz is actually catching up in the background as well, so this battle is costing these drivers. This is now a two-way fight that's turned into a three-way fight for the ultimate bronze prize in the MC Motorsport's endurance race championship here currently at the moment here for the French Car Care GT3 championship.
And that last lap cost both of these drivers 2 seconds on Cruz McPhee. Just getting too caught up in the battle and not keeping an eye on that relative is going to cost them if they're not careful. Cruz McPhee really starting to just match pace with them. He got it down to just over a second the gap back to James Salhani. It's not going to be quite close enough yet to make any massive difference, but it's certainly something for these guys to watch. They don't want to be spending their time just battling with each other and potentially both giving up P3 here if McVie does catch them, because if he can get tagged on, he'll have a really, really good shot at getting past both of them.
I'm just wondering if at the moment in James is, if James is really thinking about the moment of Cruz catching him. He's not. He's thinking about the fence coming into a bang. James into the fence for the SLM Motorsports. Reese will get past him. Jared Burns will get past him. He's got massive damage. He's crab walking. What has gone on? Forget about a podium position. Now it is damage limitations here. He's on the meatball clock. He's crab walking and so deep in this race. 1 hour and 20 minutes, and now James is not even going to be thinking about a top 10. How has that just happened? his battle with Hayden is pretty much done and dusted.
Oh, well and truly. He's going to battle just to get that car back into a top 10 spot at this point. He's pushing so hard for so long. Those tyres, look, they would be absolutely feeling it. And unfortunately, it's ended up in him just pushing that a little bit too hard. And a real disappointment for James Salhani. He had a great race and was having an amazing battle with Hayden Veld up until that point. Veld, for his part, will breathe a massive sigh of relief and just enjoy a little bit of clear air now while he watches the gap back to Cruz McPhee, which is staying pretty steady at the moment, around a second and a half. So Veld will be just looking to run the clock out here, 8 minutes or thereabouts to go. We will see just where we do get the white flag with Thomas Hinds out in front, but I suspect we've probably only got 4, maybe 5 laps left to run here at Silverstone. And really a disappointing moment for James Salhani. It's not going to be the end of the world for him. He's got that fast repair, so he's back out on track fairly quickly in 11.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not going to be a top 5 finish like he was looking at.
Damage limitations, who get some points, of course, at least. He'll use that fast repair, he'll come back out in P11. If we can do something about Lynn tipping up the road there for the Koala Hotel, who's up 18, probably the biggest gainers throughout the race there inside that top 10. But then again, yeah, that was the battle between 4th and 5th in the championship there. James did everything he possibly can to get past, obviously, Hayden. Incident occurred, as you can see on your iRap Designs replay, and that was the situation that turned 4th and 5th in the championship into essentially another battle between these two drivers.
Salhani had a big opportunity there to get through. Couldn't quite get there in the end, but then as they came through, you know, he's absolutely cooked the tyres, and looks like he's just. I'm not quite sure what sets this off, and let's keep a close eye on it. Because he's
it's
just
not here yet, no.
It's just overcooked it ever so slightly,
It's
and
backed off.
very hard to pull it up when you're going at such a high pace. It's and the tyres are at this point getting to be pretty old. So you know there's just not a great deal of grip left. He's chasing hard, trying to reel Veld in again, and watch the steering wheel carefully because you'll see it just step out on him. And that's all it's taken. It's just a little bit too much at the wrong time, and that's been enough, effectively, to send him off to the wall. Essentially, you can see how hard he's pushing this car. Like he's absolutely wringing the neck of that Mustang, giving it everything it's got left at this point of the race. He manages to start catching Hayden there. You almost wonder if just a little bit of the dirty air here is what's been enough to disrupt it. You know, he's gotten in close enough, and then just has to back off a little and bang into the wall, just like that. He was running so well,
and that bag's a big bang too because it's hard licking the fence. So he'll be very frustrated with that. But I put that down a racing incident. You got to go for the gap. Ayrton Senna would always say, "If gap car." And absolutely, because at this dying stage of the race, you have to do everything you can. That's the battle currently at the moment. You saw there in the replay for a podium position. Now that will be handed to Hayden for that one. Thomas and Danny P up the road there for P1 and P2 down in the dying stage of this race. Well, yeah, look like Norman Bowman has had incident as well too. He's currently running P14. He's back there in P14. James now, after that incident, having to do the drive-through to get that fast repair, P11. So he's on the damage clock. Here's the incident there of the BMW going for a little bit of spinner around the exit.
It's just
luckily, endurance
over
races, my friend, there's no traffic really to worry about.
I don't know, Chris Miller is right there and did pick up the spot. Thank you very much.
Race control will look at that. So
no, nothing in that.
Unsafe.
Nothing in that.
Fine.
Not at all, Biggles. Come on now.
You're too kind. You complained to me about being too kind earlier
There's
when I was
so
talking about
so much
incidents.
space on these tracks. Brendan
Wow.
Purcell
All right.
picks up another spot as well as Josh Harris runs very wide, gets himself back on track, and now will have to deal with a slowdown as well that he's got to burn off. But
And Cruzy's going to look at, he needs He was thinking about P7. He can think about P7 potentially here on the ADHD Racing entry of Chris Schlesbrook. dying stages of this race. Can he get himself up a... believe it or not, after all the action that Cruz has had during this race, he started in P8. He's in P8. He's like, I need to gain something.
Yeah, it's
to
always
prove to the Brits that I'm a racing driver.
It's always a bit rough, isn't it, when you go through an enduro and you finish exactly where you started.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's the only one in the top 10 that hasn't
sometime.
gained or lost anything.
Yeah, which you know what, great consistency from McVeigh. I'll give him that. But just a bit of a pain. What happened to Cruz? Had to come back into the pits again, and I suspect it was purely
3 pit stops he's had.
Yeah, I suspect it was purely a fuel issue. By the look of things, because he hasn't had any contact that we can see on our end.
He might have this, but he might have it there on Chris Lashbrook up the road there as they go through Baggins and Chap all down the hanger straight. Is there an opportunity here? You've got to get a good exit out here. You've got to remember to inwards on his tailpipe too, so it's not just a easy beat. It's not easy inward.
No, that's right.
Is another driver.
Inwards a bit further back. So.
Jared Burns goes in for the pit lane, so Jared can't go to the end of this race. They will put Cruz up into P7. We'll put Chris Lashbrook up to P7, and as well as Jackson Starrett. So,
and this is what you're seeing. This is what you're seeing. These drivers that pitted just a little bit too far before hitting that 1 hour mark, they've left themselves just really light on fuel. And so with still a couple minutes to go, we're still going to get another lap or two here. Thomas Hinds out in front is only about halfway through the lap, so I reckon we'll probably get the white flag next time around, which would be about right. You know, the likes of, say, Jared Burns coming out of the pits now, just ever so slightly misjudging the fuel load, but probably just wanting to play it safe. That maybe they could have made it home on what they had in the tank. He's only spent, 4.5 seconds.
I think he's spraying on a safety car, all the weather conditions and that one as well too, which is worth the risk. Risk of the biscuit, my friend.
Oh, look, maybe so, but it's in either case, like Jared Burns is an example. He's only spent 4 seconds in the pit box, so he's only taken 7 or 8 litres of fuel, something like that, maybe a touch more.
Bruce is so close now.
But all that is they've just made their second pit stop a little bit too early and have misjudged the timing of it as Thomas Hinds comes across the line. Now it doesn't appear that we've got the white flag. However, time braces and lap races are always a bit iffy with whether or not we actually do see the flag being waved. So we might jump to Hayden Veld and take full advantage of our cameras on board here and see if we can actually pick up whether or not there's a flag waved as Veld comes past the pit box here, making his way through the final turn now back onto the straight. Keep your eye on that right hand side. Doesn't look like a flag to me.
No.
So maybe we're still in for another couple of laps, which that's going to be really interesting for some of the drivers that were just the other side of the 1 hour mark with their pits. Are we going to see some people having to go massive fuel save modes here to try and get home? Notice Reed Wakefield definitely not in the fuel saving mode. He's caught right up to the back of Hayden Veld all of a sudden. Ran a full second quicker on the last lap, and he's looking to potentially somehow make his way back onto the podium. What a drive that would be.
He wants podium. Oh, Jared Burns is off from P10. He's going to come back on the moment. James is going to go around past him in the moment too. So that's dropping him. Jared's at 11th at the moment. So all excitement coming here in the dying stages of this endurance races in the MC Motorsport Championship. This is great GT3 racing at its absolute best here in Australia. And at the moment, Thomas is leading there from Danny P. As you look at the replay at the moment, that's all it takes to go off of the excursion. Charlie's gone to pit road. Brandon Purcell's gone to pit road as well too in these dying stages.
These are the drivers getting caught out.
Who's running out of gas in these dying stages?
Milliken and Jensen both with black flags. So, just an unfortunate number of. No, there we go. So checkered flag. See, there we go. That white flag.
And Reece Wakefield is hunting down Hayden for a potential podium position. Now, I don't know if Reece Wakefield just got a telegram or something there from, Max Verstappen going, a potential pit stop race, right, from pit lane to a podium is possible. There's the inspiration from the Dutch driver to the Australian driver of Reese Wakefield going, it is possible. Reese is going, well, it's not Brazil,
Nothing in
it's
it, though.
Silverstone. But
Cross
if
the
I can
line.
get past Hayden, I can get myself potentially, there it is. It's too late, day delayed, dollar short, but Reese is P4. Yeah, it's
Massive drive. Absolutely massive drive. Cruz McVie, honestly, only up one spot is surprising considering how much we've seen him in amongst all of this over the last little while. That's Ryan Palmer, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, it might be Josh Harris even, tucked in behind him. No, that is Ryan Palmer. I stand corrected. McVie, you would think, would be up more than one spot considering how hard he's been pushing all race, but he's got to be happy with the result overall, I'm sure, as we see the rest of the field starting to filter through. It's a it's a pretty big separation now between the rest of these drivers as Thomas Cool, Chris Miller come across the line. Well, Thomas Cool across Chris Miller, just about to round the final corner. Dean Powell back in 23rd crosses the line a lap down. Chris Miller will come around the corner with Nathan Bowman not too far back, but certainly not close enough to challenge for the finish. Chris Croak having a decent race, up 4 positions. Brendan Purcell still out there with a half lap to go, as we see he'll catch up to Thomas Hinds, who's just cruising around at the moment, enjoying the spoils of his victory. And looks like Vince Salvatore behind as well, who's just caught up also. But Brendan Purcell will have another quarter or so of a lap to go here to bring it home in 16th place. He's up 6. Charlie Milliken behind him by about a quarter lap as well, up 7 positions, but he'll finish up nicely. Thomas Hinzo is just going to make his way casually around to the pit lane as we wait on the last of those drivers to finish up before we get some official race results coming on through. While we wait for those to come through, I think it's probably not a bad time for us to get underway, because we're having a chat to a few of these drivers, and we'll start with none other than Hayden Veld in 3rd place. G'day Hayden, welcome to the booth, mate.
Hey again.
Well, look, it got a lot closer there at the end than we probably expected, honestly. But congratulations on the result first of all. How did you find it? Just trying to stay with Danny P first of all, but also just watching Thomas walk away right from the start here tonight.
Yeah, not gonna say it was easy to watch. It was sort of a little bit annoying watching everyone have front tyres, and just sort of seemed like I didn't. But yeah, I don't know. It might be something I'm doing with the steering inputs. I think it's from the V8. I just naturally use a lot more than everyone else, and I think that's sort of from my tyre. So that's an issue I got to figure out. But no, apart from that, it was actually an enjoyable race, especially towards the end with the battle with Salhani. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and look, we were watching that for a long time, and it was going brilliantly until he just overcooked it ever so slightly. Gave you a little bit of breathing room there as a result, but Reese Wakefield kind of appeared out of nowhere on your rear bar not far afterwards, eh?
Yeah, well, fortunately, Salhani just MDM'd my rear bar and sort of spun him. But yeah, I was sort of driving at La La Land for a little bit. Sort of, not gonna lie, I was on my phone for quite a fair bit, and then all of a sudden I looked in the
Only at Silverstone.
and
Only at Silverstone.
I was like, oh, geez, the race is there. So I had to quickly put on the Spotify, get the Sabrina going to lock back in again, and we held on.
Made a good result in the end, and some solid points for you after 90 minutes of racing here at Silverstone. Congratulations, and well done on making it home.
Cheers, mate.
Hayden Veld there takes out the P3 for round 8 of the French Car Care GT3 Championship. And we go now to second place, who almost had a track to himself. It felt like for a long time there. Danny P, welcome to the booth, my friend. How are you?
I'm pretty good actually. Not too sweaty. I'm a collective with a tidy P2.
Yeah, look, and it has certainly been a little while. It feels like, I don't know why, but it just does feel like it's been a moment. How did you find tonight's race? Talk us through your strategy and whether it actually went anywhere near what you're expecting tonight.
The strat was to feel safe. Now, with the safety car, it changes how you feel safe, blah, blah, blah. I over feel safe, so I probably lost a lot of race pace or time to Thomas. But the Merc, in terms of a race car, just had 0 rotation. So even if I was to be up here, match lap time and stuff, he was always going to drive away. But I feel saved, so I guess that's the one thing I can probably work on moving forward for the rest of the season.
Mate, it certainly didn't look. He had plenty of pace, although not as much as our friend Tom out in front. Anything looking back on 90 minutes of racing, hindsight being the brilliant leveler, anything that you would have liked to do differently other than push it just a little bit harder?
Probably would have given a little bit more space to Ryan, so you could have saved him being tagged. But I reckon I've probably been a little bit more consistent. There's a few areas I had that could slow down and stuff like that. But and it's just things I keep chipping away. But I'm pretty chuffed with the pace I've been able to pull out in the last few rounds, especially.
Well, mate, good set of results, and congratulations on some chunky points coming your way from the Enduro.
Yes, thank you.
Always a pleasure to chat, Danny. We'll leave you to it.
Steve Ellis, have a good one.
Danny P there takes out P2, and he's back once again to talk to us for another evening. Thomas Hins, welcome back to the booth.
Hey, how are you going?
Mate, look, doing pretty well on this end. Did you intend to make tonight just a Sunday drive right from lap 1, or what? That was pretty excessive to be out in front by that sort of a gap at the end of this.
No, yeah, I didn't. I genuinely thought I wouldn't actually have that good pace tonight. I just figured that this wouldn't suit the Corvette that well. I thought the Merc was going to be really strong, and some of the other cars just I figured were going to be a bit more suited to this track. But yeah, it just came in practice, and I thought I saw it in the practice session. I was like, I'm a bit further up than I thought, but that's cool. I was happy to just take top 5, top 3. And qualified basically matching race. And I was like, okay, well, we might have a chance to fight to win. And then obviously, fortunately for Reese, had that the connection issues dropping out was a big shame, because I think as Brett was my usual partner in crime, Brett jumped in tonight to this spot and everything, and as he was pointing out throughout the race, it would have been a really nice little battle between us for the win if that hadn't happened. So it's a shame to miss out on that. I prefer to have those battles and win that way rather than getting an easy one thanks to some tech issues. So shame for that, but that's, I guess that's racing, isn't it, at the end of the day? So we all have our dramas that pop up. I still have them sometimes, and I might have it in the last 2 rounds because my connection does sometimes drop for no reason, so it might happen to me. It was great. As I said, the more I've been driving the Corvette, the more I'm wrapping my head around it. And, a lot of fun driving.
Mate, yeah, look, certainly a couple more rounds to go yet, and so opportunity for your own connection issues. You've got to hand it to Reese, a massive drive to get back to 4th in the end from starting from the pits and a bit late as well. But really, I don't know that you would have seen too much of anything after the safety car left. You kind of put the foot down and went from there. With only a couple of rounds left to go, it's going to be getting pretty tight in this championship chase, and we're going to take a look at some predicted points in just a moment. But we've got Bathurst ahead, which is a notoriously difficult track at the best of times, much less with a 30-car GT3 grid on it, and then a finish at Suzuka. What's the plan from here for you and for HR Jinx Shifters? How do you set yourself up for the best shot at this title?
Thanks for setting up like I have this massive grand plan and massive thoughts into these things. I really don't.
I just assume, mate. I just assume.
No. I really should say that, because that's what I should do. But no, I'll probably do. I'll just sort of do what I'm doing. I'll just jump in and I've done a lot of racing and iRacing at this point, so there's a lot of muscle memory, and that's a lot of what I rely on, which is not good. I shouldn't do that, but I do. Bathurst, obviously, in GT3, I have done a fair bit of over the years, so there's a bit of muscle memory there, although I will have to undo a lot of V8 racing I've done in the recent past with Scott without other stuff recently, so I have to undo that. But hopefully it'll be interesting. It's Bathurst, so we'll see how we go. I feel like the Corvette might do not too bad there, especially across the top and all that. Hopefully do all right there. Obviously, the reverse grid second race will be interesting with Bathurst. There might be some shenanigans, I would say, but we'll see. We'll just do the best I can there. I feel like I might do all right. Suzuka will be interesting. I haven't actually really driven GT3 around Suzuka for quite some time. So that might be interesting. I might have to maybe I'll have to try hard that a little bit more. Yeah, hopefully be in the fight and take it to. Yeah, hopefully if I can just take the fight to race till the end would be good. Obviously if I can get the win, that'd be sick. But again, I'm just happy enough to be back up here after the start of the season was as poor as it was. It's good to be actually in the fight despite all that. So if I can get Reese, that would be great. But I'm still pretty happy with everything up to this point anyway.
Mate, a couple of rounds to go. We're hoping that the championship fight goes right down to the wire, because it always makes for good viewing, even if it is a little bit stressful for you behind the wheel. Anyone you want to say hello to or give a shout out to before we let you go for tonight, mate?
Just obviously the usual HCR crew for just always the great support they have, and big thanks to Brett for jumping in actually tonight. I didn't expect him to or ask him to. I think he just happened to be free and he saw I was racing and he was on and jumped in and just did some spotting. So good fun. Thanks to him for that, for keeping me aware of things and just to have a bit of a chat as well through the races. Really, I like to sometimes have a bit of a chat as we're going along. Big thanks to him for that. Big thanks obviously to the league for putting on the show and running everything as they do. It's always great fun racing MC. Always have a good time. And big thanks to you guys for the broadcast for us as well.
Always good fun and great to chat to you once again. Congrats on the result tonight, Tom, and we'll go take a bit of a look at the championship results now and see what we can see. Hey, we'll leave you to it.
Yeah, thank you very much, mate. Thank you.
Thomas Innes takes the win tonight in this 90-minute enduro at Silverstone, and Biggles, look, it's provisional and we can never be quite sure with where these points line up as we get closer and closer. And obviously, drop rounds still to be accounted for and all that kind of thing. Really, the only way we can tell for sure is when it comes to that final round. But I tell you what, it's still looking hard to catch Reese Wakefield. He's still got almost 100 points of lead here. Thomas Hinds might just have to be looking at that second place and thinking, you know what, that's a pretty good season. It's not impossible, obviously, with 2 rounds left, but it's going to be a big ask, isn't it?
He's got to throw everything and the kitchen sink at it. Cats and dogs, every single thing he can. It was lucky tonight that Reese Wakefield unfortunately had a technical issue and couldn't start. Reese Wakefield put the car on pole, remember, for this endurance race, but had to start from pit lane due to technical difficulties. He fought his way back up to P4. So damage limitation is what Reese Wakefield did. And unfortunately for Thomas, who had got the race win, all Thomas could do was and he dominated this race. He got maximum points. Couldn't do too much about Reese cutting his way through the field there and getting P4. Danny P, Hayden as well, championship contenders, always in there. That's the thing. And James Sahani, he's always around too. So that's the hot spot zone of those drivers. But as I said, Reese Wakefield's kind of like that. It's a bad itch. You can't get rid of Reese Wakefield. There's no way you can get rid of Wakefield. You can chuck him to the back of the field. He fights his way back up through you. Thomas did all he could do. Reese Wakefield somehow can't be shut down, and he's on his way for another championship contendency of the French Car Care GT3 Championship.
Yeah, look, it's looking like it's almost a done deal for Wakefield, but still 2 rounds where anything can happen. That brings us to the end of round 8 here at Silverstone for the French Car Care GT3 Championship. It's been a massive 90 minutes of GT3 endurance action, and as always has delivered from start to finish. A massive thank you to all of the sponsors here that make it all possible, not least of which of course is French Car Care with their major sponsorship of this season. And we have just a couple of rounds left in this one before we will decide on an overall champion for this season and for the last championship of this year as well. Next stop, of course, Mount Panorama for round 9, where the walls are close, and let's face it, the stakes are even higher as we get into that penultimate round of the championship. Do come back and join us again for that one next Monday night, and if you want to get your racing fix, stay tuned to Simple Racing Broadcasts over the rest of this week as we bring you even more racing action for you to feast your eyes on. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to be here in the booth with you. Thanks so much for watching it from at home. It is goodbye for now.